What we have right here is a sword plant with the roots right here, and coming out of the center of it is our stem running up to the next one. So we're going to cut that off right at the base. We're going to cut that stem off. So without really having much effect on the plant stocking in my other aquariums, I was able to harvest 30 plants here to place into this aquarium. Hey, it's Brock here with Uncommon Aquatics, and today we're going to be propagating some aquarium plants and spreading them into this 125 gallon that I just set up in the last video. When you set up a new aquarium, if you want it to be a heavily planted aquarium, and it's a big aquarium like this one, you're going to be looking at spending a lot of money on plants. And this is an expensive hobby, and I'm always thinking of how can I do this hobby more affordably. And one answer to that is to use a lot of plants that are quick growing and easy to propagate. So we're going to see if we can stock this with plants just out of my other aquariums. And we're going to start with Amazon swords. I've got 18 Amazon sword plants in here. I think I've bought about 12 of them, and there's another group that I propagated once before. Now, this plant right here is probably doomed for failure, this giant sword, for a couple reasons. One, the main reason is it's in a tank full of fish that like to eat plants. So this plant is constantly being eaten. So I also did not set this tank up in a way for it to thrive. There's no soil substrate. It's just kind of in there. And it's got some algae growing on it. Like, the plant's still healthy. It's healthy enough that it's sent off 2 runners that are ready to be propagated. So I'll go ahead and show you, in case you don't know, I'll show you how to propagate Amazon swords. And we'll go ahead and get all of these swords out of here and into the new tank. So you might notice this sword plant has a lot of like hair algae on it. And it's because it's an overstocked tank that gets heavily fed. And it's kind of a young tank. I've only had this set up for a couple months. And after your initial cycle, there are other cycles that take place. And sometimes a new aquarium, after a month, 2 months, 3 months, it goes through a cycle where you're more likely to have an outbreak like that. So what you might have noticed, or maybe not, is this runner coming up to the top here. There's a long one, and there's actually 2. There's another one behind it. And I'm going to take my scissors here, and I'm going to cut those off down at their base. This is a deep tank, which makes it hard to get down there to the base and find where this attaches and cut it off at the base. But here is our runner. So I said this plant was unhealthy because a lot of the leaves up at the top look rough, but down here at the bottom it's got a bunch of brand new leaves that look really good. Here's our runner. And sometimes I might be tempted to cut these dying leaves off, and I might cut a few of them. But in this case, because these fish like to eat plants, I've kind of been leaving some of this stuff that doesn't look as good, thinking maybe they will eat on it instead of the healthy leaves. But I'm going to remove a couple just as regular maintenance. I said this tank had 2 runners, but actually it's all coming off of one main stem, but I was seeing other branches of that. So this one runner actually has 1, 2, 3, 4 different stems to it. And the way you know that this is ready is when all of these little plantlets have roots on them. This is a ton of Amazon sword plants that are ready to be planted on their own. So what I'm going to do is kind of peel those roots back so I don't cut those off where I don't want to. I'm going to snip that off. And then I'm going to snip off each direction that this plant runs out, that the stem runs out away from the main stem. I'm going to snip all these off. This is such a jackpot for me because I'm going to come out with so many Amazon sword plants that it would have cost a lot of money to buy all these plants. So, what we have right here is a sword plant with the roots right here, and coming out of the center of it is our stem running up to the next one. So we're going to cut that off right at the base. We're going to cut that stem off. I'm holding this in an awkward way trying to film it. Okay, so I've cut that off, and there is our beautiful, beautiful sword plant. Perfectly healthy. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 leaves on it. And see how long those roots are? Alright, so we're going to just line those up right there. It'll be a little bit repetitive cutting these. I'm going to cut them all and then show you how many we came up with. So off of this one sword plant, I've got 19 plants here. Now, some of them are like this. That's a beautiful plant, almost ready to sell. Others are tiny. And there's one that almost shouldn't be counted. There's barely any leaves, but there is quite a bit of roots. So 19 plants there. Now, I saw that runner and thought about cutting it to propagate about a month ago, but it only had about 6 plants on it, and some of them didn't have roots. So by waiting another month, I went from 6 plants to 19, and these are healthier and more likely to make it. So a little bit of patience goes a long way with propagating from runners. Now, I could have waited longer and got more, but also this may put off another runner, another shoot that I can propagate from. And also, every day that went by was another day where there was a chance that a Severum or a Vieja would eat that leaves off that runner. So I'm real happy to get these. Let's get some more plants that we can easily propagate. One thing I'm going to say is I'm not doing any floating plants. I really am annoyed by floating plants in an aquarium that are your traditional floaters that multiply quickly. And basically I'm talking about duckweed. I can't stand duckweed. It gets all over everything. I don't want it in my tanks. So we're doing these sword plants, and I've got a couple others. So the next plant we're going to propagate is out of my self-sustaining bowl, which has actually been a massive success, but it has some duckweed on it that I need to get out. And I just picked that bowl up and moved it so it looks really dirty. But this dwarf Sagittarius, I believe is what that is, has spread all over this tank, or this bowl, all the way around. Now that plant has one root system for the whole thing, and it turns into like a carpet. So I'm going to grab some of that and kind of wiggle it and pull it up in a section, because I only put like a couple pieces of this in here and it spread. Now I've pulled up a couple pieces of this, and we'll put these with those other 19. I'd say really there's 5 plants here, even though they're all tied to each other. And we'll let this carpet another tank. And this will be the 3rd time I've taken some of this out of that bowl and spread it into other aquariums. Our next 2 plants that we're going to rob are out of this aquarium. This is a shrimp tank. We've got some hornwort. We're going to take a piece of this, and we're going to add this to our 125. Next, we've got this Vallisneria. I put one piece of it here. It's run a stringer to here, and to here, then along the side, and along the back. I'm thinking there are probably 15 of these plants, and we're going to break a couple of them off. Okay, so here are 1, 2, 3, 4 Vallisneria. Got a snail on them. I don't mind adding some snails. It's going to be a planted tank. So without really having much effect on the plant stocking in my other aquariums, I was able to harvest 30 plants here to place into this aquarium. And because those are stored plants, within 6 months, this thing can be a jungle. Those are big plants. This will spread. This will spread. And you guys can help me with the names. These may be the same plants. I think this might be Vallisneria. And just for fun, because we're talking about how to propagate plants, this is Java fern. This was hanging on the leaf of one of my other Java ferns. I could do this with multiple Java ferns or Anubias and propagate those as well. But we'll just do one and we'll add it. This is typically attached to driftwood or rocks. The aquarium we're adding these to is just set up. It's not cycled. It's running an FX6 on 125 gallon. It's got a weird choice of color on the back, and there's a little bit of cloudiness to it because of the sand that I used that's just now filtering down. So even though this isn't fully cycled and it doesn't have a bunch of fish in there creating fertilizer for the plants, I think these plants should take off because I did the same thing I did with my father fish aquarium. I put down some compost, potting soil, peat moss, just some different things like that I had around. I made a bed of that, and then I capped it with the sand. I put these large rock in here as kind of an accent. And now I'm going to go through and plant all around this. I've got a single piece of driftwood with a couple of Anubias on it. It's down there in the corner. Then there's a single koi fish in here, a really small butterfly koi that I'm using to cycle the tank with, just because I've got a bunch of koi fish. And so I'm going to go ahead and get all these plants put in and then show you the final result. So I'm not going to show planting all of these, but I will show how I do one. So I get the plant like this, push it down into the sand, but not all the way down. You don't want to bury the plant up to here. You just want above the roots. You wiggle it down into the sand. When you release, let go with this, you kind of wiggle back out so the plant doesn't come up with it. And we've got 1 inch of soil, 2 inches of sand, and we're going to try to get the base of this just halfway through the sand. I don't know how well you can see that. It's a small plant and it's kind of a hazy aquarium, but I'll show you the finished result in just a minute. Okay, from here, it's going to be hard to see the plants because those were small sword plants and the tank's a little bit cloudy, but I will get you some better close-up footage. Some of these over here, looking at them right now, I may have got them planted a little bit too deep and it's hard to see that from above, so I'll probably get in there and wiggle those up just a little bit. But I'm really excited. You can see these plants here. When all of those grow in, this is going to be densely planted. It's going to be more green than red that you see. And I think these rocks that I put in here as accents have that red-pink kind of tone to them. I think it's going to set off with that really nice. I've considered maybe putting discus in here, but I haven't made up my mind. It may be an overflow tank for the Vieja or the Severums or something out of the 220 gallon. I'm interested to hear what you guys think of it. I have two two new to me 125 gallon tanks set up with no fish yet. And I've got some ideas, but I always like to hear what you have to say. So I appreciate you taking time to watch this video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.